Hi, HR Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the HR Leaders Podcast, the show where we explore the future of work with industry experts and HR executives from the world's leading global brands. Today, we're joined by our good friend, Matty Harary, Chief HR Officer at Strauss Coffee. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Chris. Good afternoon. I'm fine. And you?
Nice to see you again. Where are you joining us from today?
Well, I'm joining from Tel Aviv, although the background of my screen is the coffee flowering from Minas Gerais in Brazil.
Oh, wow.
This is how coffee plantations look like when there's no frost. Today, this area is totally black, unfortunately, because of the frost in Brazil a month ago. But yeah, I'm calling from Tel Aviv.
Wow. Have you been there before?
Oh, yeah. Several times,
wow.
Yes.
It looks beautiful.
It is.
Love to see it. How have you been? Just before we get into everything, how have you been personally?
We are doing fine. You know, it's both family and business alike. We are doing good. Mm-hmm. And also the business is doing relatively okay. You know, people drink coffee.
They still need their coffee.
Every morning.
It never was there any dip or was there an increase? Like, because I was thinking if now more people are at home, they're less likely to go and buy coffee elsewhere. So were people buying more coffee? And did that impact you? Just random question.
Well, people buy the same more or less, but in different locations. They all are away from home business, which means coffee shops, train stations, hotels. Went on March and April 2020 from 100 to 0, while the retail and online went up to the roof because people consumed much more at home. So all in all, it's the same balance, more or less. Yeah, you know, people cannot live. The world cannot exist without coffee. Simple.
Because I remember even in my home, like the coffee jar is normally not full because I'll grab a coffee at work, and so I was like, oh, we have no coffee. we never have coffee at home because I always have it on the move or in the office as well. So I was like, oh, for the first time I kept having to buy coffee at home, which was and I started trying different coffees that I never had before. So oh, let me just experiment and try different blends, and I was like, this is pretty cool. As well. What's top of mind for you? You know, it's nearly 2 years now, right? Since the first lockdown. It seems crazy, actually, that it's been almost 2 years. What's been the biggest sort of challenge for you and the team throughout this whole time? I know there's so many, but.
No, when the whole COVID pandemic started, we set two main goals for the company as a whole. And for Strauss Coffee in our countries specifically, one that people first, meaning we want our people to be safe and healthy, not just the people and also their families, because now it's totally connected. Maybe we'll talk about it later. And the second, not less important, is business continuity, because we need to bring your coffee and other coffees to the retail shelf or to people's home on a regular basis. So we cannot afford not to supply our consumers. So these two objectives were the most important stuff that we dealt with, and we still deal with different extent, of course, depending on the countries. And not less important is how to make sure that the organ called company, you know, the people, the production floor employees, the field force, the employees at the office, everyone will continue to speak and to interact and to communicate, and managers will continue to lead, or leaders will continue to lead in different formats during different time zones, but still the business needs to run, and people organ need to continue to function. And this is basically what was and still our main challenge.
Mm-hmm. how did you manage to keep people safe whilst making sure that you can ensure business continuity and business as usual?
I think it is part of what Strauss brand or value proposition stands for. We always stated that we put people first before the pandemic, and the pandemic was an opportunity also to show it outside, because we really invested a lot of resources in making sure that people will be safe. So all the precautionary measures on the production floor, all of the facilities and equipment that employees need in order to work in the right way from home. So we basically opened 2 offices. One was in their offices, and the other one like many other companies, we didn't invent the wheel here. We allow people to purchase anything they need, almost anything they need, at home in order to be able to work and to function normally without taking the kids monitor or the kids webcam and this and that, which was a common practice, invested in internet and stuff like this. And above all, because this Zoom entered into the home of so many people. So suddenly it was not just the relations between the company as employer and the employee. It was a relation between the company and the family, because you always see on the screen behind, you see where the employee lives, you see his family, you start to know the name of the kids. And we started also to invest in families, in their well-being, because I think well-being will be one of the big things going forward, the family well-being, not just the employee well-being.
Mm-hmm. How did the work that you did then or support transcend into their families? What did that look like from a practical point of view?
From practical point of view, it's there were families where the second family member were forced to go on leave without pay or were fired or whatever. So we basically gave grants to a lot of families in order to just to survive. At the beginning, we thought it's going to be a short period, but as time passed by, we realized that it is a long journey, but we were committed to it. So we invested financially in supporting families in need, supporting children activities, so the family will be able also to function when they were all locked in between 4 walls and stuff like that. So
that's amazing.
It's the Strauss is highly innovative traditional company. We're not the Netflix and the other high-tech companies. We're traditional companies. So yes, we are highly innovative. Yes, we use a lot of high-tech tools, but by the end of the day, the vast majority of our workforce are blue-collar employees. Okay, that live above the minimum wage. In Strauss, there's a Strauss minimum wage. In every country where there's a minimum wage, we set a standard that we will never pay minimum wage. We have extra, okay? Even if it is not competitive and we can hire employees on the minimum wage, we always pay above. And but this is our workforce.
But
This is
that's
what.
part of whenever I speak to you, which always stands out to me, Matty, and it's reflected in what you've said. This is part of being a purpose-driven organization,
Yeah.
right? This is aligned with your purpose and value
Mm-hmm.
Would you agree?
Yeah, I do. You know, it's Strauss is a purpose-driven organization for many years. I think it was shaped like this by the founders. And you know, you do not wake up in the morning and ask yourself, okay, why I'm exist for? What is the purpose? You live by that. The devil is, of course, in the so many details.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, it is. It's part of our day-to-day life. It's a bit different between each country because you have a one big purpose for Strauss Group, which is nourishing a better tomorrow. This is our purpose. So we look how we can. It's so important for food company to think about the future of everything, future of our employees, future of consumers, future of the planet, because everything we do comes from the planet. You know, coffee, the yogurt. We have a big dairy business in Israel. We are number one hummus and tahini company in the US, Sabra, and it's all come from the planet. Okay, so nourishing better tomorrow is our purpose. Now, it doesn't mean that every employee wake up in the morning and ask himself, okay, in what way today I will nourish a better tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. Okay. But it is, but at the company level, we always think, what are the things that we do and in what way we can shape our business processes and decision-making that it will reflect what we believe in. And there are many examples like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you think it's the role of HR in terms of developing and nurturing purpose and driving this in companies? Because it kind of falls to HR is what I'm trying to say, and by default in many companies.
Yes, it's a bit tricky question because, and I tell you why, because it shouldn't. It is the role of the leaders of any organization, the shareholders, the owners, the top management to set the direction, you know, to decide this is our North Pole star and this is where we are heading to. But then when it comes to how you shape the organizational culture, it's the one who facilitated is the HR director locally or the HR organization at large, because this is our expertise. Okay, so to some extent, we are the culture gatekeepers or we are the culture champions across the geographies. And, you know, and when you take the nourishing a better tomorrow, it most likely has different meaning in the UK, in Poland, and in Russia. Okay, and HR expertise is to take it and to translate it in a way, not translate it literally, but translate it culturally, that also the Russians and the Israelis and the Serbs will feel that they understand it and they're proud of it and they can do something with it. Okay, because otherwise, if it's just a slogan or a poster on the wall, it means nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that that was a very great way of answering it. And I agree with you. It shouldn't sit with HR, but it should be driven from the top. But HR does have a role, of course, in executing on it and communicating it throughout the organization.
Yes. One of the big mistakes you see quite often is that the HR take the challenge, but then decide to do it by themselves. And then the purpose or vision or values or whatever becomes the topic on the HR agenda rather on the management agenda. So the HR failed to bring the management team and the leaders on board, and it perceived as HR process. And this is the
You've already failed.
start. This is already failed. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you already failed at that point.
That's correct.
Yeah. What's been the biggest change to your operating model that you've had to make and you continue to make to succeed in this new normal, this future of work we find ourselves in, etc.? What are the biggest changes you're having to make to succeed?
We at Strauss Coffee, we were lucky because when the pandemic started, we were already for quite some time in operating model, which I call freedom within a framework, which I will explain in a minute. And this operating model allowed us to operate in this new situation where a lot of things and decisions happen locally without the need of strong, heavy, centralized headquarters that manage business processes. Strauss Coffee was established like this 25 years ago, almost 30 years ago, when Eastern Europe was at its very beginning development. Still, the EU just, it was before even the EU was established, and the strategy approach we called it the smoking chimney strategy. So in order to succeed in a country, you have to have a chimney, you have to have a factory in every country, because the local authorities used to protect the local producer in such a way that there was no way to bring coffee from the outside. So we grow the business while developing local brands, local businesses, to some extent full-fledged local businesses, with a relatively reasonable but not too heavy global infrastructure. Okay, and this is what we have today. We don't have a one single global brand. Okay, it's all local brands. And when you have a local brands and local facilities and some of the supply chain, not all, because there are some central supply chain processes, of course, but when the big chunk of the business processes are local, you can allow and you have good talent and local teams, you can rely that they will continue to run the show without being fully interacted on a daily basis with the corporate level. And this is basically how we manage to continue operate.
So it allows you to, when you say freedom in a framework, is the freedom to make decisions locally within a framework, which allows you to move quickly, innovate, and change, make change without having to go to head office and to run every single decision.
Yeah, that's correct. If you will ask me to give you the elevator speech on what is Strauss Coffee competitive edge from business and from people perspective, it will be this: the way we do business, the fact that you can decide, local marketing director in Romania, together with the supply chain who run the factory there, and the CFO and the GM, they can decide on a new pack of their brand, run a prototype, test it in, I don't know, Constanța or Timișoara or Bucharest, and if it works, let's go for it. And they can do it in 3 weeks.
Wow.
The Nestle and Jacobs, JDE, or Procter of the world, they hardly can do it because their decision making is much more heavy, although they are bigger and definitely with an amazing brands, but it's different.
And that's quite unheard of in organizations like your own, with all of the history and being around for it. Like, normally that's the biggest thing holding back companies as well, but that seems to be grounding the DNA of the organization, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Sure.
What are you hearing from candidates now? We spoke briefly about this beforehand. What are you hearing from both your employees who are more senior in the organization about the way they're working, and also from new hires that are considering working at the organization? What are the questions, concerns that they have?
Well, it depends whom you ask, of course. And also with seniors, you see some of them that really would love to go back to the old days, knowing deep in their heart that this will never happen. But they still try. Well, you have some who capture the moment and realize that that's it. The world going to change big time from
with or without me.
yes, with people and talent. With the young talents, it's no brainer. They are much faster than us in capturing the scene, in grabbing the opportunities, in realizing that it is now their world. Okay, now, especially in Israel, but not only, where you're starting to see the war for talent. You know, there is a study done by McKinsey in 1919 or 18, I don't remember, just before the internet boom. And the name of the study was The War for Talent. They basically assessed at that time that the internet industry is going to explode, and the pipeline of talented graduates from university, from high schools, from wherever, will never catch up. And they said, listen, guys, it's going to be a big war for talent. It started like this, and then came the internet boom, the collapse of the internet boom in 2000. You see it now again. What pandemic did to the internet, and we see it, you know, Israel is by large high-tech country.
Big tech hub, yeah.
Yes, so all the cybersecurity and internet and cloud-based and this and that exploding. The fears of the real estate companies that they will have extra office spaces in Tel Aviv vanished. There's a shortage, big shortage of office space in Tel Aviv because of the number of startups that open every week. And you know, every startup at a certain point need a financial controller, and need programmers, and need this and that, and it takes the remuneration levels to the sky. And you see it also in other countries in Europe. So the big challenge we are facing today is to retain our talent in a non-traditional way, and not less important, to find the right way to attract talent to come to us. Okay, so beside continue to watch the COVID and ensure the employees' health and the business continuity, we are to a large extent busy with finding new ways of retaining top talent and attracting new talent.
Yeah. And I think with it's interesting, right? Because we're no longer competing on location. We're no longer competing on fancy offices to show employees. So would you say now it's now more important than ever to build a strong brand in the marketplace where you're talking about your values, your why, the purpose, and that being at the core of what you're putting out there as an employee brand proposition?
Yes, we're investing in, we're now redesigning or redefining our employer value proposition based on the company purpose. And we scratch again and again to find, how to say it, to explore more ways to connect between the purpose and the business processes and things that we do. You know, I'll give a simple example. You see the coffee plantations behind me. In the coffee industry, the weakest part is the farmer. And he's the most vulnerable part of the value chain. And when you look into this specific hills behind me, it is now, as I mentioned to you early in our discussion, it's now black because of the frost in Brazil. So there's no coffee cherries next year in this plantation. And in a nutshell, this farmer will not have an income next year. Okay, so what we do about it? Can we decrease our margin to some extent and buy buy coffee that will be a bit more expensive, sustainably sourced from farms that will take the extra money and recover? And this is part of what we do. And the challenge that I'm facing is, okay, this was a business decision driven from purpose, but how I will connect it with the employees. How will make the employees proud of this activity and many other things.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. It is the new talent will come to Strauss and to other companies only if they will feel this is a place that to some extent express some of their beliefs and things that they believe in. And you know, most of people want to do good, and they also want to see that the company is doing good. You know, by moving from shareholders-driven P&L to stakeholders-driven P&L, meaning that you don't think only about the EBIT by the end of or net profit. Let's put it this way: by the end of the year, it is important, but the question is what you do with it. And when you think about the beneficiaries, not just shareholders, but wide range of stakeholders, that means something.
Yeah. And then kind of narrowing it down further with their teams to what the role of each individual in that employee, what is the work they do and how do they contribute to that purpose?
That's correct.
For sure. That seems to be a missing link I see in companies, is that you have the wider vision and the purpose, but making sure you communicate with those employees of what role they're playing in that and the contribution that they have to that.
You're right. Well. Yeah, and this is not easy. You know, no. I was 3 years ago on middle of nowhere on the border between Uganda and Rwanda. We had a project, it's called More Than a Cup, where we invest in coffee farms or cooperatives owned by women. We did a study together with Bloomberg and other organizations just to figure out that any extra dollar that you put in the hand of woman farmer gain much more benefit for the family than if you take the same dollar and you give it to the man. The man just take the 40% of what out of it for the beer and the rest, or 60, and the rest goes back to the farm. With female, it goes close to 90%.
Really?
So we invest, we have 10 projects around the world, Latin America, Africa, and Asia, where we identify coffee farms owned by women, and we create a project. It can be with agronomical support or education or whatever, where hold a second, I will just turn it off. Where the purpose is that after 3 years, the yield per crop or per hectare will be 30% more, or even higher. Now, so I was standing in this farm in middle of nowhere, and the lady showing me a poster of girls' college in Kampala, in Uganda, where her daughter, 12 years old, going to study, the first girl from this village. And she very openly said, listen, sir, it's only because of the project that we tripled, not 30%, we tripled the yield of our crop. I was, for me, it was the purpose in real. And now when I came back and I shared it with, top management and employees, it was a project that was already run for several years. And I was sure that we did the right communication, and we shared it on our corporate website and this and that. And eventually it didn't hit the production floor. It didn't reach our employees. They didn't know about it, okay? And I failed that we did a great job with the coffee farm, with this family and the other families there, but we failed big time in basically taking it forward and connecting it to our employees. And this is part of what we're trying now to avoid and to make sure that we're doing right.
Yeah. I think this is where we're seeing this interesting intersection between HR and marketing starting to come closer together as more effective ways to communicate. So to your story, I was speaking with Lindsay Bridges, who's the Senior Vice President of HR for DHL, and they were trying to tell some of the similar stories, and they were also having the same issues reaching employees in their sorting facilities and filtering down. So what they ended up doing, and they're running it now, is launching their own podcast where they have a weekly show and they share it not just internally, but on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, not traditional platforms. And they found that their facility workers were listening on these YouTube on their preferred platforms. So rather than just trying to bring people to them, they've actually took it the other way around. There was like, what are the devices or platforms that this generation of these people are listening on? And now they have people tuning in to the podcast, and Lindsay interviews different leaders in the organization, new hires, or shares those stories with the organization, and it's kind of built this real community. And even some of the new hires, she interviewed someone recently, and she was saying that they know about the show. So imagine you speak to a new right in an interview, and they've listened and heard that story on YouTube as well. So I'm seeing now HR teams hire videographers, hire different types of talent that you would never typically see in the HR function to help with these direct and not externally in the function to work on some of these brand initiatives as well. So that is an incredible story that everyone in your organization should know about. You're right.
No,
It's absolutely incredible. You said earlier, though, that now every single person you hire, the number one question is, what is the work hour? I mean, what is the flexibility versus virtual in office? Is that, you think that's going to continue and just be the number one priority?
I think this is this will be the new normal, especially in for office employees. Young office employees will never come back to the old days, and you hear it today that this is in many countries question number one that they check when they assess the water if to fill the form for the position or not. Pay will come second. Okay. And I think it will stay like this. And you see more and more companies realizing that and trying to find the right solution for it, because it's not that simple. You need to find the right mechanism, how it should work for the benefit of both company and employees. When you have a marketing team, you need to have one day that they will sit together and will brainstorm together. You know, in Israel, it was for several months, the notion of the high-tech industry that we are bringing back our office space. From now on, we work from home, because they heard that Microsoft and Netflix and Google and whoever are going to do it in the Silicon Valley. It took them 2-3 months to realize that innovation comes from brainstorming, and productive brainstorming comes from diversity. And you need to have the different opinions, the different types of personalities in a room. There's a limit to what Zoom can do for us in facilitating creativity. And when you look for creativity, you, to some extent, some of it you can do via the Zoom. Big chunk of it, you need to sit around the table and play with whatever you play and find different solutions. So, like many things in life, the truth is somewhere in between. And Strauss, like I guess 95% of the companies worldwide, doing the trial and errors to find the right balance. 2 days a week, 1 day the team should be together, maybe 3 days a week, all this kind of stuff. And eventually in 3, 4, 5 years, it will settle down some version till the next chaos.
Well, like, one thing I'll say before you go, I think we've all realized there's no one size fits all approach to this. It's about empowering our people, our leaders, our managers to have those conversations with their teams and figure out what works for them. But I do agree, we do need some level of, my team comes in once a week. We have that collaboration. And, this Friday, we're going to go out for or is it next Friday? One of the Fridays. I think it's the next Friday. We're going to have our team away day and try to make them more often, where we go out, have fun, and just non-work related. Super important to keep those activities happening as well, face to face.
Sure.
as well. But look, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure. It's so nice
It's
to
my
catch up
pleasure
with you.
too.
And hopefully get to see you again soon as well. But good luck with everything. Keep up the incredible work, and hopefully I'll hear the Strauss Coffee podcast or the or Strauss Coffee Radio. I want to tune in, hear more of these incredible stories as well. Definitely share them more of them on Matty on LinkedIn as well. You know, I'd love to hear more about these incredible work that's happening and the lives that you impact through the work. It's amazing.
I will. Thank you very much, Chris. Have a wonderful day.
No worries. Bye bye. See ya.
Bye bye. Take care.
Bye.